Hello out there. Welcome to our podcast today. This is Coach Eric Johnson, the brand.
And this is Coach Aaron Thigpen, the source. EJ,
Yes.
got a topic for you today. I'm going to entitle it Sports Specialization and the Regression of Athleticism.
Ah, yes,
or
sir.
Ties to the regression of athleticism.
Yes.
And conversation we've always have, and unfortunately it seems to be an ongoing conversation. And it was just kind of re-sparked when I was talking to a softball coach, a local softball coach here. He has travel teams. And he just happened to mention the same thing.
Right.
And it kind of was almost like, are we, two old guys, get off my lawn sort of conversation,
Right.
why we were bonding, or, is this a phenomenon that we're really seeing and is taking hold? And from the training standpoint, I think this is something that's taken hold because it takes up a lot of my time and energy when I'm working with athletes. So to put it plain and simple, I've got athletes who are developing or have a highly specialized skill set, i.e. their specific sport or specific to their sport, but they're poor athletes, just overall general athleticism.
Okay.
It's not just it's remedial in a lot of cases.
Right.
And I'm discovering this at 8 years old, and I'm discovering this at 18 years old. And I know I mentioned this briefly on our last podcast, and it just seems to be coming full circle, not coming full circle, but it just seems to be reoccurring. And so I know we've talked a little bit in the past about this subject, but I think it's good to revisit it. And I know some of you parents should look at some of our older videos where it's not videos, but our podcast where we talked about this before, like the awkward athlete was one of them. And maybe there's a couple others, and I'm sorry that I can't remember them right now, but as we go through, I'll pull them up and we can reference them so that people can go back and listen to those as well. But in a nutshell, why aren't our kids as athletic as maybe previous generations? I mean, we've both been doing this now about 30 years. So we've seen, 3 decades of athletes, and they have changed, So
they sure have.
Opening salvo on this subject.
Right. I'm going to take it. Hey, man, this athleticism subject comes up often in conversations in my industry, baseball. And I hear this term, he's just not athletic enough, or I like to see some more athleticism. And I always go back, Aaron, to days when I was growing up and, there wasn't any social media, television, big screens, that didn't exist. TV was a big box. And kids were out in the street playing. Whether it was, playing tag in the neighborhood, and you would choose the pole as your home base, and you had to run around the car and maneuver around the car and jump over a curb and do all that stuff. That's athleticism, to jump, maneuver, plant, push off, and get to home base, dive. We were diving in the streets, man. I mean,
yeah, no, you're right.
We get like scrapes on our knees and elbows, and with our pants on or whatever we had on, and that was just part of it. And I think that part of athleticism, of just raw, get after it, playing with your friends in the street, not organized. And I think here's another thing I think, Aaron, it's it became it's become organized to go do something rather than just go play and figure it out. So I think athleticism gets lost in that, to where it's all about movement. And you and I have always been big on this, is, athletic movement patterns instead of like, ABC movement patterns, to where it's not any rhythm, flow in your movement patterns. And I think that's gotten lost because it's been organized. So I think organization has hurt our athletes out there. I think that's my opening point on this subject, is that we're so organized that sometimes I think we lose the athleticism and the art of creating movements.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to pull up those three podcasts that we did previously. Yeah, one was the awkward athlete. The other was corrupted movement patterns. And the third was managing growth spurts. So these kind of cross over into, the subject that we're talking about today. So I think those would be three podcasts you guys might want to go back and listen to. And one of the other things, now as we're talking, these things are coming back to me. But another thing that prompted me about this subject was I just saw something quick on my I don't know, Google whatever thing, where your stuff comes up. I don't know the terminology.
Right.
Timeline or whatever you want to call it. But I think there was a bill or a law now that came down from Gavin Newsom's office that actually requires recess. And I'm like, when did you have to pass a law to mandate recess?
Right.
I was assuming that kids were already having recess. And I knew that, that a lot of the PE and physical education has been taken out of the schools, and we've talked about that. And that's definitely, I think, a big issue. But it kind of clicked. I kind of started to put things together. It's like, I remember was talking in one of our other podcasts about how even at the youngest ages, there's a lack of some of the rudimentary movement skills, so it's not just from an athletic standpoint.
Yeah.
It's also from just the basic functional movement skills. And I was telling you, I remember telling you that, I'm starting to get these kids younger, 8, 9, 10, and they're not even having some of the basic movement functioning skills. So, they can't lunge, they can't squat, they can't balance on one foot for any period of time. Those dovetail into athleticism, right? But those are kind of just the basic movements, that springboard into athleticism. So, and then I saw that article. I wish I would have pulled it. I didn't get a chance to read it all the way through, but that makes sense. If kids aren't having recess, they're not playing. If they're not playing, they're not getting the repertoire of movement skills just from a functional aspect that they need to springboard into sports. And that's why I'm starting to see this younger and younger, because the kids aren't playing at home, and now they're not playing at school.
Right.
It's like, well,
where are they getting it from?
And again, that could, I don't want to dump everything on video games and phones and stuff like that, because I like video games myself. But I think all of that has something to do with what's happening. So got a kid who's sedentary, got a kid who doesn't move. They don't go out and ride bikes leisurely or anything like that. They don't skateboard. And yet they
Wow.
want to play a sport and they don't really have some of the basic functional skills, just movement that you need. And so now you take that 8-year-old or 6-year-old or whatever, they haven't been doing anything. Now they want to play baseball or t-ball for the first time. Well, how is a kid going to swing a bat and throw a ball when they haven't even done that on their own for play? They
Just
have
to
no clue.
right.
And but you put them in t-ball and you put them in soccer. And so now they learn this one narrow set of skills.
Right.
Okay. But they still haven't taken care of the foundational stuff, because you can play baseball and play soccer and still not know how to squat, still not know how to lunge, still not know how to hop,
Hop.
still not know how to run. Do you see what I'm saying? And so,
Absolutely.
but everyone's calling them athletes. And this
Yeah.
goes back to our other podcast, illusion and delusion. It's like
Right. Right.
and maybe that's because I'm a purist when it comes to athleticism and but that's what I do.
Right.
You're going to look at people from an athletic standpoint. And so now I'm starting to be able to connect the dots on all this and seeing that, hey, this is a disturbing trend
Mm-hmm.
for the types of athletes that are coming up and aspiring to want to be athletes at higher levels.
Mm-hmm.
And now you look at that environment, and now you can maybe understand why there's higher degrees of injury, soft tissue injuries, because their movement patterns are corrupted. Go back and listen to that that
That
video
podcast.
bars,
Yep.
and they're still trying to figure things out, the most basic things out, even at the ages of 16, 17, 18.
Wow. Isn't that the truth? Aaron, you said some things that kind of jarred my memory of just recent stuff that I've been doing. And it's kind of like, I was doing I'm doing these hitting classes and trying to get a player to jump to their left leg, jump to their right leg, then separate and swing. Wow. Like they have trouble doing that. Like, I'm like, you're a good player. You can't balance. Like, or they land and they wobble and they can't balance to get in position to hit. And I'm saying, wow, the athleticism of that player, we got, how do we get them to do the drill if they can't be an athlete or they can't do the drill correctly because they don't know how to hop on one leg and then balance on the other one and then step and swing. I mean,
and so for those wondering why that might be an issue, well, it's basically transfer of force.
right.
You have to have balance to transfer force when you swing a bat, because it comes from where? It comes from the ground up.
Right. And, Aaron, I've seen so many young kids that we get entering our company and some kids who just starting in our company don't know how to slide and don't know how to dive back to a base. Like, wow. Like that. I'm like, have you ever dove like on grass or dirt before? I don't know how to. It's like, I don't know how to,
Yeah.
rather than, I was growing up, you figured it out and you dove, be like, okay, that's how you do it. So let me keep on trying to do it so I can get it right, Or I watch Major League ball players on television and watch, oh, that's how they did it. Let me go try that. I found the most interesting thing the other day, Aaron. This is about 2 weeks ago. I asked a group of players, how many of you guys are watching the World Series? And out of the 9 players, 2 of them raised their hand.
Yeah.
And I said, Hmm. I said these are some of the best players in the world, and this is an exciting time to get to see them showcase their talents. You could learn a lot. I'm not. No, I'm not watching that. Why aren't you? I mean, you're finding out what these really great athletes are doing, and you're trying to mimic and copy them to improve your athleticism.
Right. And you know where my mind goes?
Please do tell.
is,
Do tell.
is I would be hot as a parent if I'm paying for my kid to take lessons, play on a travel ball team, and they're not engaged in the upper levels of their sport. Why are we doing this? Why aren't you just playing a recreational form instead of spending this time and resources? And do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, there's
It's
some.
like,
Where's the
that makes no,
aspiration?
exactly.
Where's the
That makes no sense to me.
It makes zero sense to me. You're trying to aspire. It's just like I asked the kids, you watch a college baseball game? No. Well, don't you want to do that? Yeah. Don't you want to know what the environment's about? Don't you want to watch these guys get after it and they're doing their different things that they do? Isn't that fun? No, I haven't watched one yet. Have you been to a live game yet? No. Why not? They're free. They're not even charging sometimes, I
But
don't get it. I mean, what are we doing here with this? Are we training robots?
but that says a lot. Is basically what it tells me is there's not a true connection to their sport with most of these kids.
Right.
See, again, only form of reference is me that I know of is me as a kid. And what I did as a kid, Sports Illustrated came out.
Right.
I tore out pictures, posted my favorite guys on my wall.
Ah,
You
right.
know?
Or posters, you go down to the
Yep.
hobby shop and, I'm not dating myself out there, people.
50s.
Yeah. And you get they had them right there by you
Yep.
open the door and they had the whole little
Yep.
tube,
They had a little
big
bin, the tube.
posters.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And you were looking for your dude. Did it come? Did it
Right.
come? And you could put it up there and you could dream and you could dream about it and the imagination that you had to have of you doing it. Where's that at today? And that goes a lot to say about athleticism because athleticism is really a vision and a dream of how you're creating movement patterns and how you're creating how you move, man. It's cool to run like uh, back in the day, like Walter Payton, or it was cool to run like Eric Dickerson. You tried to run like Eric Dickerson, how he was straight up, or it was fun how, I mean, you copied. It's so funny. I copied so many different athletes and so many different sports and tried to transcend that to baseball. You
Right.
see, I tried to take their running style or how they did something and tried to make it a part of my game. Where's that imagination today with young athletes who are trying to be what they call athletes in this day and age in sport?
Well,
And
I think it can be summed up in one 4-letter word, dirty word now, I guess. It's called play.
mm,
Kids don't play. They don't go outside and play. And we talk about play all the time as being the foundation. And I love what you talk about because I mention this all the time. You've got to have your repertoire movement is built through your imagination. And your imagination is sparked by the inspiration or aspiration you talk about by seeing other great athletes or seeing older athletes that you're aspiring to. And that's where that all starts. You take that model, that guy you're looking at, that gal you're looking at, you aspire to it, then you go out and you try and mimic it in your play. What happened, that's the difference, I think, between the kids now and then us growing up and maybe some of the others, is I think these kids aren't connected to the sport. They're not watching it, they're not following it. They're not really having favorites other than maybe some highlight stuff. Maybe that's how they pick their favorite guy. And then they're not going out and trying to be that guy or be that girl.
Right.
Not going through that process on their own. What they're doing is they're going to a lesson. They're
Ooh,
going to a practice, and they're being fed their movement skills and their movement patterns, but they never quite connect their own movement idiosyncrasies. Do you understand what I'm saying?
absolutely clear.
To what they're not bringing that gumbo all together. They're not taking the instruction,
Mhm.
that builds that skill set and makes sure things don't go off the rails. But they're not also taking those personal movement patterns that they've explored on their own and know how their body moves and how to blend the two together. You know,
Yeah, man.
I think that may be what's happening.
Yeah, I
And
know that's what's happening. Aaron, I know that's what's happening. You couldn't have said it any better right there about the blend. Maybe we should, hey, title this the blend.
so parents, I know, it's a different world, and we can't always, I was a free range kid, and maybe that's just not the world we live in anymore, but you got to figure out a way for these kids to play. And we've talked about it before. Get back to some of the derivatives of your sport versus just playing the sport. Get back to three flies up, get back to wiffle ball, get back to, whatever derivative of your sport, throwing the ball off your
Okay.
garage,
Yeah, get back to that.
all of those sorts of things to get those movement patterns going, those juices going, the exploratory aspect of movement and being an athlete, and have them take that and pair that with the proper skill instruction that they're going to get from someone like you.
Right.
I think that's the only answer. How it's going to be done in today's world, I don't know. But establish that connection with your athlete in the sport too. Get them out to games, have them watch games, have her watch games. I don't know. It's tricky, but I'm getting them. The kids are coming in, and I'm seeing that I spend more and more of my time working on remedial things
Right.
with these kids. And what's funny is, because these kids think they're better athletes than they are, they don't want to do the remedial. But I have to point to them like, well, you can't lunge without teeter-tottering.
Right.
How can I have you do a block start or a 3-point start, an explosive start off of one leg, and you can't even give me a lunge properly?
Right.
You see?
I see exactly what you're saying. It's true, but you know what? It's true, Aaron. It's
Oh,
exploration.
right. So
So,
I don't know. I don't always run out. I mean, get your kids the lessons, but balance it with play. I guess
right.
that's the best way I could say it, because I know everyone thinks, well, I'll do the Tiger Woods formula, and all I'll do is play golf, but I think that's only one side of the story, and that's probably not all that he did, but
It
that's just
was,
all that was shown to us.
yeah, he did a lot more. I know that for a
And
fact.
yeah, you being the golf aficionado, I'm
Yeah,
sure you know that there was a lot more to it than that.
was.
But so parents, that would be my 25 cents on it. The sports specialization, it's a good thing, but it's killing. It's
Right.
it, it's killing your kids, and you've got to balance it with the other side. Anyway, I rambled. What do you think, EJ?
No, I think you hit it right on the head. I think we need to continue to explore as athletes. Parents out there, let your athletes go out and do other sports as exploration to their own athleticism. And they're going to tell you if they don't like it or not. That's all right. Maybe they're just going out playing it for fun. I just want the kids to go out and play for fun so they can explore how their body really moves. So, that's how we find true athletes, by just doing different things. And we've talked about it a lot on our podcast. And, I just like to end by saying, all the stuff you're doing is great. Don't be afraid to explore.
Like that.
With that said, that ends our podcast today. This is Coach EJ signing out, the brand.
And this is Coach Aaron, the source. Guys, please hit that dislike button. Send us a review, whatever you'd like. Engage us, man. We'll keep this process going and hopefully continue to bring you guys some content that you will need and enjoy. We'll see you.